Olá, boa tarde. Vamos continuar. Mais uma palestra. Agora temos aqui o Jean-Marc Alberola. Ele é presidente da Bridge, dos Estados Unidos. A Bridge, nós temos na pós-graduação da Estácio, nós temos o curso de pós-graduação em ensino de língua inglesa, que fazemos junto com a Bridge, por isso conheço o Jean-Marc desde há anos, faz uns anos. E a Bridge está presente formando professores de inglês praticamente no mundo todo, em os 5 continentes. É uma instituição muito importante na formação de professores e nos serviços de língua inglesa. Jean-Marc preside esta instituição e ele me comentava que hoje tem praticamente alunos em todos os países do mundo, não? Então, ele vai falar sobre as possibilidades do professor global, possibilidades de trabalho hoje em dia. Tem muitas opções de trabalho, tanto principalmente na Ásia, mas em muitos países que precisam de professores, tutores online e que não conseguem ter essa quantidade que necessitam. Eu aproveito a oportunidade para dizer que vamos começar um curso conjunto de extensão universitária para formar professores online. É um curso curto e eles criaram todo esse conteúdo para capacitar os professores para dar aulas online, que é o presente hoje em dia, como vocês sabem. Tem professores hoje aqui no Brasil que têm alunos em muitos países do mundo e tem umas características especiais que precisam ser observadas. Então, deixo com vocês o Jean-Marc conversando sobre estes assuntos. Obrigado.
Obrigado. Hello, everyone. I know it's Sunday, late in the afternoon, so thank you very much for being here. My name is Jean-Marc Alberola, and as Jose Luis said, I am the president of Bridge Education Group, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Global English Teacher World of Opportunities. A little bit about Bridge. We describe ourselves as an international education company. We started in the language business. That's how I got started over 30 years ago. I actually worked in Brazil with some language schools here about 30 years ago. That's when I got started, was in Brazil. We do a lot of different things: teacher training, language training, international student recruitment. We work with universities overseas. For more information, you can find that on bridge.edu. One of the things I wanted to do today was I'm going to talk about the opportunities for language training. I'm going to talk about changes in technology and how that's affecting. But I also thought today would be a good opportunity to put your jobs, what you do every day, into context. Because you are, whether you realize it or think about it on a day-to-day basis, you are part of a global phenomenon, which is the learning of English. And for us at Bridge, this is something we are very conscious of, because in our training of teachers, we have teachers from, I think, just about every single country in the world that are taking our certification courses. And we see that they have a lot in common. So I'm going to start today with a video. It's about 4 minutes, a TED Talk, to kind of set the tone for what I'm talking about, which is this phenomenon of English mania.
Let's talk about manias. Let's start with Beatlemania. Hysterical teenagers, crying, screaming, pandemonium. Sportsmania, deafening crowds, all for one idea: get the ball in the net. Okay, religious mania. There's rapture, there's weeping, there's visions. Manias can be good, manias can be alarming, or manias can be deadly. The world has a new mania, a mania for learning English. Listen as Chinese students practice their English by screaming it.
Change my life. I don't want to let my parents down. I don't ever want to let my country down. Most importantly, I don't want to let myself down.
How many people are trying to learn English worldwide? 2 billion of them. In Latin America, in India, in Southeast Asia, and most of all in China. If you're a Chinese student, you start learning English in the 3rd grade by law. That's why this year, China will become the world's largest English-speaking country. Why English? In a single word, opportunity. Opportunity for a better life, a job, to be able to pay for school or put better food on the table. Imagine a student taking a giant test for 3 full days. Her score on this one test literally determines her future. She studies 12 hours a day for 3 years to prepare. 25% of her grade is based on English. It's called the Gaokao, and 80 million high school Chinese students have already taken this grueling test. The intensity to learn English is almost unimaginable unless you witness it.
Perfect! 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 I want to speak perfect English. I want to speak. Perfect English. Perfect English. I want to change my life.
So is English mania good or bad? Is English a tsunami washing away other languages? Not likely. English is the world's 2nd language. Your native language is your life, but with English you can become part of a wider conversation, a global conversation about global problems, like climate change or poverty or hunger or disease. The world has other universal languages. Mathematics is the language of science. Music is the language of emotions. And now English is becoming the language of problem solving, not because America is pushing it, but because the world is pulling it. So English mania is a turning point. Like the harnessing of electricity in our cities or the fall of the Berlin Wall, English represents hope for a better future. A future where the world has a common language to solve its common problems. Thank you very much.
So what did you see? What did you think when you saw that? It's pretty scary, almost. One of the things that resonates. Has anyone been to China? Yes. Every time I go to China, I'm in awe, but also I always walk away thinking they're going to conquer the world. And you know, one of the things that you saw here was, I'm not going to let my country down. You know, I don't know that in the United States or in Brazil, students are learning English because they don't want to let their country down. But it's interesting to see the motivation behind this. But 2 billion English students around the world. I put this picture in here because it came close to home. A friend of mine who is actually Brazilian tried to set up the Guinness World attempt at the largest English lesson on Bondi Beach in Australia, but it didn't, obviously wasn't the biggest because we just saw where the biggest ones are. It's in China. But I thought this was also an example of the phenomenon that's learning English and all the different segments. And the language travel is one of those, where students go to different countries to learn English. And you think, here's Australia where they speak English, but look at the size of the English class. And these are students from all over the world that have gone to Australia to learn English. So then the question comes, why English? Why not Esperanto or maybe French? I think most of us know the answer why, at least the Brits do. From their perspective, English is the United Kingdom's gift to the world. And it goes back to colonial days. And I think at one point they were battling it out with the French to see if French was going to be the main language, but English won. And the Brits, they see this really as a gift that they're giving the world, and they see it as a major export product of their country. I know the stats for Australia. Education in Australia is their third largest export, right behind and almost on par with mining and other industries. For the UK, if you look at the size of the country and their dominance in our industry, it's quite impressive. Cambridge and Oxford and IELTS tests, CELTA teacher training, the British Council. This is because you have a government who sees this as an export product that is promoting and incentivizing and subsidizing to a certain extent their industry around the globe. But a lot of times, and this has been talked as a theme throughout this conference, the question is American English or British English. And I know I've always been in the industry. There isn't anyone here who hasn't had that question. And really, I think today, when we look at English mania and we look at the phenomenon, we're starting to understand that that's really the wrong question anymore these days. It's really about English as a lingua franca. English is the global language. I put international English. David back there, you're not such a fan of that term. But, I think it's... actually, the one question that's kind of funny is, if English is the main language, why is lingua franca not in English? But I think lingua franca might be an English word. Who knows? So this is the phenomenon that we're facing today. And part of this, another theme is that we're seeing, and this is the British Council saying this, by the way, the declining reverence of native speakers as the gold standard for English is a rising new paradigm. And when we walk through today a little bit about what's going on in the world around English, we'll start to understand why that statement's being made. And really we're in a transition. We're in a transition now between a modern era and a postmodern era in the development of the world and globalization, where there's still some old school thinking, but there's also the new is actually happening. And so you're still going to, while we want to be forward and talk about English as a lingua franca and being the international language, there's still a little bit of that transition where there still exists today reverence for the native speaker. So keep that in mind when we talk about change, is that it takes time. But we're in the process of it. Here's some interesting thoughts. Economic globalization encouraged the growth of English, but the spread of English also encouraged globalization. And I like this comment here by Mark Robson from the British Council. English is the operating system of the global conversation. English brings economic opportunity to countries and to people, individuals. Strategically for countries, it's really important that the people in their country learn English. And that's what drives the demand. And you can see in a country like China, the government has made it mandatory by law that they start to learn English, and you can see the effect they're having in that country. We talk about English as a language, lingua franca, and international English. And I think this data piece here speaks for that fact. Here in tourism, the majority of human interactions that do not involve an English native speaker, English is the preferred language for communication between non-native speakers. 74% of tourism is occurring between countries and peoples of non-English speaking countries. How are they communicating with each other? They're speaking English together. There you have it, right there. I think another thought initially at the beginning when the internet first came about was, and this thought was mentioned in the video about English taking over and erasing other languages. When the internet first came out, really, English was the dominant language, and I think it was legitimate for people to say, oh my goodness, now with the internet, it's only going to be in English, and what happens to other languages? But in fact, over time, that's not at all what's happened. What's happening is that other languages are actually proliferating, and the percentage of English on the internet is actually decreasing proportionately as people adopt the internet in their own language. So you have this English mania, but it's not taking over. It's not taking over and erasing other languages. And so really what we're talking about today is multilingualism. This is the phenomenon that's going on. It's that we're learning more than one language. And if you're a monolinguist in this future world, you're going to be left behind. All those Americans that only speak English, good luck. Anyone who's a multilingual in Europe, they're multilingual. You are all multilingual or bilingual. That is the future of the world, and that is really what's happening. And people that are multilingual are going to have a huge advantage in the labor markets and everywhere else. I put an interesting. I remembered hearing the discussion, David Dubelweiss's talk on non-native English speakers. We have conducted some surveys to NNEST teacher surveys. This one we did in the spring to about 1,000 teachers from all over the world, and I have the stats and some other slides coming up where you can see what countries they were from. But we asked them, what do you prefer to be called? 30% said non-native English speaking teacher. They didn't find it offensive. It was okay. 7% want to be called native English speaking teachers. It could be that, I'm not sure how that one came in there, but it is the answer we got. 37% said bilingual, or 22% said multilingual English teacher. So you can see really the huge preference here for this nomenclature, but still some non-native there. So I thought this was interesting, but it plays into that notion of bilingualism and multilingualism. Here I'll start to get into and talk a little bit about technology. Technology is disrupting many industries. We think of Uber and taxis, etc. Well, the same to a certain extent is happening in education and in language training. But many of us have been teaching for many years also are starting to be a little skeptical, especially because some of the claims about what technology was going to be able to do, and would it replace the teacher, and I won't have a job anymore because of technology, those kind of questions. But really, it is affecting in many ways, but I would say in positive ways. And I remembered of this. This is the Gartner hype cycle is well known in the tech sector for startups and industries. And I find it fascinating because it's almost like a science. So many industries go through this. And if you look at the Gartner hype cycle and you look at the parallels between online language learning, if you go back 10 years ago, there was a lot of hype when the internet came out about online learning. English Town and EF and all these, and Macmillan came out. And if you were in the corporate sector teaching English, it was also like, oh my goodness, companies all of a sudden said, oh, we don't need to hire language services, we're just going to do everything online. And they went and jumped right in. Well, really what happened is you had the technology trigger, but it was the peak of inflated expectations. And sure enough, gave it 2 years, 3 years of students finding this really doesn't work very well and I'm not learning English, for them to come back to what is the trough of disillusionment, where they realized, oh, wait a minute, this technology isn't all that it's made up to be, and maybe this isn't going to replace the teacher. Maybe we go back to those language schools and those teachers and have another chat with them, and maybe we need to do something different. But today, in online language learning, as in other industries, it's starting to go up, and we're getting into the slope of enlightenment now. and to a plateau of productivity. Just to give some examples, if you take Bitcoin, you can see sort of the same thing happening. A lot of expectation around Bitcoin, and then the crashes and there's volatility and it gets hacked. But eventually it will sort itself out, and that will be, virtual currencies will be a technology that we'll use. And the same with self-driving cars. Oh, we don't have to drive anymore, we're just going to get in the car and it's going to take us where we want to go. And then they start crashing and killing people. And so, oh, wait a minute, maybe we're not there yet. But eventually they'll sort it out and it will be a phenomenon. So the same thing happened in online language learning. But I think in online language learning we're up in here. And have some good sight ahead of us. So I thought here some interesting statistics for global digital English learning. You look at, this is trying to think what years we've got here. This is, it looks like 2016 data. The one that I'm focusing on that I think is the most interesting is this, what they're calling here collaboration-based learning. But really this is live language learning with live teachers. And you can see the growth rate. This is China. It's in China market, I mean, this is globally, but in China, 50% of the market for English training, and if you want to look to them for a metaphor for what might happen in the rest of the world, is online, with online live tutoring. That's how it is right now. So maybe we're not there here in Latin America, but if that's the direction China's taking, good chances are it's going to happen here as well. You've got mobile and self-paced courseware, which, by the way, the self-paced courseware has run its course in terms of growth. It's here to stay, but again, it was one of those that had a lot of hype around it. And its growth has diminished, so much so that they're not even doing research on it, on the market size anymore. And then if you look at different regions by world, look at the growth rate in Latin America, one of the highest, just below Africa. Asia, it's a little bit lower because they're ahead of us. So there's a lot of room for growth in digital English language for Brazil and Latin America. So when we look at technology, one of the concepts is this idea of fragmented learning via apps. And it's an understanding that technology exists and there are many different ways and they all can contribute to the student's learning. And when the first technology first came out, we used to think, oh, well, this app, I just need to do this and I don't need to do anything else. But really, what's an understanding, and we certainly see this in the Chinese market, is they have an incredible number of apps to learn English, everything to practice your pronunciation, every little game based learning, all kinds of things. These are solutions that students use based on what they want in a fragmented way in their spare time. It's a complement to what might be traditional learning. And that's kind of where it's settled. The other trend globally is that students are becoming younger and younger. And you can see, obviously, this is driven a lot by government policy. If you want to make your country bilingual and have its economy boom, you're going to have to start with the young kids and change a generation to become bilingual. And that's why they focus on the kids. And so depending on the demographics in different countries, now for the first time, in China it's predominantly young, but really right now you have the broadest spectrum of ages of students to learn. You have generations that didn't grow up getting enough English and need to, and you just look at each country and you can see, based on how effective they've been in their English, that really all ages are there. What will happen eventually, as you can see in some really European countries where they're fully bilingual, say Sweden, for example, the market for digital English language apps is zero. There's no market because people don't need them. They are a bilingual country. Here's some stats on the growth rate, 30% for online English education for children. It is a phenomenon, kind of like that video you saw, but it's going to start to affect the market and your job here in Brazil as well. How many of you have heard of VIP Kid? Any of you? Okay, I guarantee you're going to be hearing about it soon. This is the first time maybe you heard about it, but they're coming. VIP Kid is going to expand to 100 countries. This company is amazing in its growth. I think it's like 4 years old. They, I think, initially raised $100 million. They're about to go public. They're going to be like $1 billion company. Right now in the U.S., they have 60,000 teachers. Think of a language school with 60,000 teachers. And they need to hire 40,000 more this year. They're looking to get 100,000. Now this is a little bit when I talked about that paradigm of the native teacher and that we were in transition towards recognizing the international language and teacher. But remember that this is a transition. Right now, VIP Kids model based on the Chinese market is to promote native teachers to teach. And I think David talked about his wife that was Korean, who was fluent in English, didn't get a job with VIP Kid because she looks Asian. But I can tell you there are fissures in that, and it is changing. And I'll give you the example of Japan. In Japan, they had a JET program for English teachers in Japan. And it was always to bring Americans and Canadians from the Big Six, Australia. That was a requirement. It was based on your nationality. But recently, they've made a change. If you had an Asian face, you couldn't be a native speaker. But already in China and Japan, the large number of teachers now are Philippine. They're from the Philippines because it's an English-speaking country. And those prejudices are being erased. And that's just the beginning. Once that starts to happen, and as the market matures and as they realize they're not going to find those 40,000 teachers, they're going to start to look for teachers from other nationalities and other passports. And they're going to start to realize that bilingual teachers can play an important role in teaching. And it's not just limited to VIP Kid. Dada ABC is another one. Some of them have kind of strange names, which kind of fit with the Chinese market. 51 Talk, all these. They're coming to Bridge looking for teachers for recruitment. They're looking to our graduates to say, we need teachers. We want teachers. And they pay great amounts, $15, $22 an hour, $30 an hour. These are rates for the U.S. market. They're not going to find all the teachers they need. Trust me. And they're going to start to look at other markets. The other thing that happens is there's a level of maturity that takes place in markets as well. Initially, as they start to differentiate themselves and as they start to teach different market segments and not just kids, then they're going to look for more teachers with more experience and formal training, and that's where you're going to start to see the change. And I expect that to happen. It's already happening. It happened quick. I put this up here because one of the opportunities that I'm talking about today is teaching English online. It is an opportunity for teachers increasingly. It's a growing segment. Maybe 90% of language training today is in the classroom, and 10% globally might be online. Of course, in China, it's a totally different story, but it's growing very fast. And as for Bridge, who does language training, we're looking at our numbers and we're saying, well, are we on par with the growth of the market for online? And for Latin America, we're at 20% online, and I think it's going to end up growing even further from that. But if you want to get started online, I would say working for one of these companies isn't actually such a bad idea because it's a great way to get an intro, to get some training. Many of them have prepared curriculum. You're probably much more advanced than the curriculum that VIP Kid may have for teaching young children. You probably have a lot of experience to bring to the table. But the thing about VIP Kid is also hiring native speakers that maybe not have had a teacher experience, and they don't require that. They manage it by having a very strong curriculum and design, and the fact that they're teaching young children. But these are, if you look at Data ABC, I found this on the internet, presenting yourself well, you have to wear the blue shirt, make sure you're groomed, maybe put your collar up, makes you a better teacher. Sit up straight. All these things make sense. If I for our teachers, we would want them to represent Bridge by doing all those things. Here's another part of the survey for the end nesters that talked about where are they teaching. And I put this one here because 30% of these teachers around the world that we surveyed are already teaching. They're a private tutor. But you can see the composition: language schools, international schools, etc. But I was impressed by the number that are teaching privately for themselves, which gets into the next segue, which is this concept of the teacherpreneur. That now, as languages become segmented, it's kind of like the notion of the gig economy moving to teaching English online, where you can get in and become an Uber driver. Well, you can also teach English, and you can find your students online. Some of us market ourselves very well, like Jackie back there. This is something that teachers are doing, and they are finding their students, and the marketplace is receptive to that. I'm gonna hopefully this video will work. This Jessica Beneke has videos. She's an American who does videos kind of like Jackie. Do you know Jessica Beneke? Have you heard of her? OMG English? No? Okay, well, you'll like this. It's kind of like the you in China, okay? So we'll play this, and I'm going to play it as an example because I have some ideas about how this could work for non-native speaking teachers as well.
大家好，欢迎来到 OMG 美语，我是白洁。星期一到星期五，我每天都会播出一个节目，一直在学最新的、最地道的美语。今天我们一起来学怎么用美语谈 finger 这个词儿的一些美语说法。Cross your fingers, cross your fingers, cross your fingers， 两指交叉以求好运。I have a big interview tomorrow. Cross your fingers for me. 我明天有一个很重要的面试啊，祝我好运吧。Make a basket, make a basket. Yeah, he did it. 投篮，投篮，投篮。Yeah, 他投进了 ，woohoo! Wrapped around one's finger, wrapped around one's finger, wrapped around one's finger， 能够很容易的影响别人。That little girl has her dad wrapped around her little finger. He buys her any toy she wants. 这个小姑娘能很容易的影响她爸爸，女儿想要什么玩具她都买。Green thumb, green thumb, green thumb, green thumb 的意思就是某人在种花或种菜方面很有才能。My mom has a huge green thumb. She grows a huge garden every summer. 我的妈妈在园艺方面很有才能，她每年夏天在花园种很多东西。I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on it. 我弄不清到底是什么。Wow, this coffee has a very interesting flavor. But I can't put my finger on what it is. 这杯咖啡的味道很特别，我喝不出到底是什么口味。I think it's vanilla. 我觉得是香草的味道。Yes, it's vanilla. 是的，是香草啊。好 ，It's your turn. 请用英文写个评论告诉我 ，Do you have a green thumb? 好，继续看 OMG 美语，我们明天见，拜拜。
So Jackie, did she use some of your techniques there? She's a celebrity in China. Yeah. And she was, I think, some of these video clips, I think she was working with the Voice of America at one point as well. I don't know if she's still out there. I met her in New York at a conference, and I remember when I met her, I was just so shocked because she spoke Chinese so amazingly well, like a Chinese, really. And I asked her, "What's your accent?" And she's like, "Oh, Northern Beijing." It's like not even like I don't have an American accent. All right. So I put that video because I thought this would be, a lot of the genre of video and YouTubers, if you're marketing yourself as an English teacher, are the native teacher who's bilingual, like Jackie or Jessica here. But if you think of the concept of language as an international language, really one model that we should see more of is you as a non-native English-speaking teacher, or bilingual teacher, better word, interacting with someone from another country or with a native speaker. What that does is it shows and gives confidence to your students who are also Brazilian that, well, my teacher or this person is interacting with the native speaker or an international person speaking English. It gives you credibility as a teacher, shows it works, and gives them confidence as well that I can do the same. It doesn't have to be a native teacher to get this done. And using software where you can do split screen or back and forth, you can have those conversations, you with another speaker. A great way to promote yourself and also participate in producing these videos. Obviously, Jackie and Jessica have incredible talents and dynamism that can make it work, but a lot of you guys, I know, in the classroom have that same dynamism. So just take it to the video. In terms of for teachers right now, there are lots of different solutions. This company contacted us, and we're in talks with them. They offer a platform for teachers who want to teach online, where they can schedule their classes. They offer a curriculum. You can be just a teacher, or you can be a teacher aspiring to have their own small language school, or maybe a big one. It's kind of a one-stop shop for you. So these are software. There's others. This isn't the only one. And then, of course, you probably know about SuperProf and SuperProf and Preply and all kinds of others where you can market yourself online to become an English teacher. And I thought this one was particularly good because Professor Ricardo is certificado en letras y TEFL. I like that. And I think as teachers go to market themselves more and more, people are going to look for teaching credentials. Another thing that's good and interesting as you start to market yourself as a teacher directly is that companies are starting to give more choice to employees in the training they do. It used to be in the past you'd go to human resources and RH, treinamento, and they would say, we're working with these schools and these are the courses you're allowed to take, and they define and vet it. But with the proliferation of online courses that are out there, they're realizing they can't keep up, and they're saying, allowing employees to come and say, hey, I found this course online, I want to take this. And so it's what we called in the language industry the decentralization of training, where in some cases you saw corporate policy saying, look, here's $200 a month, study wherever you want. You want to go to Yazigi, it's near your house, or you want to hire a private tutor, do what you want, but here's the money, we'll allocate it for you, you can do what you want. This is opening up the possibility for students to go and on the company's dime, have private classes with a private teacher. This is an interesting study by the Dialogue for the Americas that did a study and looked at Latin America and the development of English and saw that really the performance of English proficiency wasn't doing very well. And one of the outcomes of this research was realizing that many people, as we all know, that are in the language sector as teaching are not trained specifically in their subject area. They don't have proper formal training. You ended up becoming a teacher because you spoke English and you love it and you got good at it, but there was no formal training. And so simply producing more English teachers will not improve English proficiency if graduates lack meaningful qualifications. This is something they identified in their study as something that needs to change. And I couldn't agree more. So this is the survey that we did. This is kind of the composition. Look at 50% is all other countries. So really we have a really broad spectrum. And that's when I shared with you that English mania, and it's a phenomenon globally. You are not alone here in Brazil. You have colleagues in Chile and China and India and Iran and other countries that are facing the same challenges you are in the class and doing the same things you do. And we asked them, you're coming to us because you want TOEFL certification. Why didn't you get TOEFL certified previously? Well, 37% I couldn't afford it. 28% I wasn't aware what certifications there are. If you look today for teacher certification, we're stuck in that old paradigm of the native teacher and the British colonial. We have the CELTA and we have the Trinity. I'm not saying they're bad training, but they were designed for native teachers with very high proficiency. Sometimes the model of taking a whole month off and getting certified can be hard. It's relatively very expensive if you're on a teacher's salary to pay for that. And so it's just not realistic. So what we're trying to do at Bridge, with Bridge TEFL, is to offer affordable training for teachers that's online and accessible, that works with their reality. They can do it part-time. And that is internationally accredited, so that it's legitimate training, that it's recognized. And of course, that's interesting here. 18% said it wasn't necessary for my job, which, you speak English? Okay, go in the classroom, right? We've got a few more minutes. It's okay? All right. So here are some of the trainings. As Jose Luis said, we're partnering with Cultistácio to offer training in Brazil. We just launched a Teaching English Online certification. We have all types of certificates in mix and match, and we're constantly creating new courses. We're an accredited institution in the U.S. and recognized globally, and we also have many universities that recognize and accredit our courses. Kind of a vision that we have for Bridge TEFL is we want to make it a marketplace for teachers, but we want to make it so that all of you non-native speaking teachers that have techniques or methods to share, that you can come to us and say, I have an idea, I want to have a mini course. It could be an hour course, and we'd like to work with you to create more content and make this available to teachers in Japan or everywhere else as well. And we're doing the same in other countries. So if you have any ideas and you want to be famous, come to me. And then here, I put this here is that to say that I think teachers are officially awesome. I'd give you a certificate if I could. I have to say, when I started in the language business, I always have been in the diretoria, doing the management, and it was always that tension between the teachers not getting enough pay and the administration and all those things. And I don't think in the beginning of my career, really, honestly, I was that sympathetic, or I didn't really understand or appreciate teachers. In fact, I mean, and this was a long time ago, okay? 20 years ago, the way we ran the school, if a teacher didn't show up, I'd go teach. I mean, I was a teacher, I spoke English, right? But I wasn't a teacher. All I did was I spoke English. And unless it was a conversation class, it was terrible. And I think it was clear that the surveys that I would get weren't very good as a teacher. But also, even today, in our office, our headquarters are at one of our language centers in Denver, and the walls are a little bit thinner than I would like, and I can hear the classes sometimes going on nearby, and I'm working and I'm hearing it, and I'm like just thinking how amazing it is what they do, and how really it's an art. So I really admire what teachers do. So this is your certificate of awesomeness, at least coming from me. I really appreciate, and I really admire what you do, really. And that's it. So thank you. That's my email if you want to get in touch. And
would anyone like to ask any questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Congratulations for this very awesome, amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Letting us know all about what we can expect from the market and training. So my question is really specific. When is this course starting for the online classes for teachers?
Ask Jose Luis here. When?
I want to teach China, please.
15th of October.
Wow, it's now.
Yeah, coming
I'm
up.
going to enroll.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi.
I've been studying in Estácio 4 years ago. I couldn't complete the English translation. And soon after, I started studying Mandarin in Brazil with native Mandarin speaker coming from Beijing or China, from Chinese embassy as a sponsor. And we have a lot of difficulties because they didn't speak Portuguese, of course, and they could speak a little English. So I was looking for some way to connect because I'm a huge fan from language. I can express myself in Portuguese, in Japanese, because I'm Japanese. And I'm a huge fan from English to connect this all world. I'm so happy that Estácio has this opportunity. And I would like to know if Bridge can form this kind of methodology from Mandarin. Mandarin is quite new for me when you say, because today I was surprised, I was trying to read English and Portuguese.
Yeah.
You start talking about Mandarins. I think you've been a lot in China that you have this data, everything. Yeah. Do you intend to apply this, what kind of methodology Chinese is applying to learn English to the Brazilian students?
Yeah. Right now, no. I think there's probably some parallels of the techniques and things that we're doing that could extend themselves to other languages, teaching Spanish, etc. But really, the global market is English, and as a company, that's what we're focusing on. We see that as the big opportunity. So all our resources are going into that, and we have our hands full in terms of all the things we're trying to accomplish and do. So I think it's a great idea. We're just not there yet. Maybe in the future.
But I hope, teacher, you can start Mandarin in English here in Estácio too. We'll be at the first college in Brazil because the Chinese, interest in Chinese English is improving a lot in Brazil and South America also. I hope.
Anyone else? Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Alberola.